A lot of people are always asking me like, well, did the bare bowl ruin jiu-jitsu or did leg locks ruin jiu-jitsu? It hasn't ruined jiu-jitsu or it hasn't stopped it. It just makes other people more efficient and more effective earlier, but less efficient and less effective later.
Welcome to Forever White Belt. I'm your host, Adolfo Ferranda. In this episode, I sit down with one of the most brilliant minds in the world of jiu-jitsu, Malachy Friedman. Widely respected as a true scientist of the art, Malachy is a black belt whose innovative approach to coaching, technique, and strategy has earned him admiration across the global jiu-jitsu community. Many of us have looked up to him for years, not just for his depth of knowledge, but also for the generous, passionate, and authentic energy he brings to everything he does. Malachy shares insight into his evolution as both a martial artist and a coach, detailing his journey through the worlds of MMA and Jiu Jitsu. We dive into the challenges of content creation, the unique demands of coaching in both sports, and his ongoing work to develop a comprehensive MMA instructional library. We also explore the leg control meta and the importance of personalized coaching that truly resonates with students. Malachy unpacks the nuances of performance, creativity, and the ever-evolving strategies of grappling, highlighting the balance between control and expression, between specialization and adaptability. From studying legends like Fedor to the role of seminars and sharing knowledge with the next generation, I hope this conversation captures some of what makes Malachy Friedman so respected, not just as a coach, but also as an artist, a thinker, and just a great guy. And with that, I give you Malachy Friedman. Malachy, welcome back, man.
Hey, good to see you.
So Malachy, for you guys don't know, I think you're a 3-timer now on the show. You know, we got to send you your own green jacket or something like that.
Yeah,
You know?
the Saturday Night Live.
You straddle all these different worlds, especially MMA and Jiu Jitsu. You have such a depth of knowledge in both of those. It's really a huge, I think, boon for anyone that can get your input on that.
It's really hard to sometimes take both, like controlling both. So I have my kids' classes with the gi, I have my adult classes with the gi, and then I have my MMA with no gi, right? But I don't normally teach just like no gi submission wrestling. And I would say the gi made me really good at MMA grappling. Like that sounds weird, but I believe that the gi helped me understand body mechanics and stuff like that so well that the crazy thing is that I'm probably selling myself short here, but like, so I have I work with a guy named Joachim Ingberg, and he has a school. It's called MMA Mastermind. And I put stuff up there and we're always working together. He was one of Alistair Overeem's coaches. He's out in Sweden. So go there first. But funny enough, when I'm watching other fighters or I'm watching other MMA coaches give instruction, it's not as good as Craig Jones's. So Craig Jones's wall work and leg ride stuff and these kind of things are better than a lot of MMA coaches that are selling grappling for MMA. And so you go, okay, well, that's because he understands the body so well that if he can push you against the cage, he understands it. He understands the mechanics. And that's kind of how it came for me, is like, man, I really understand things to a degree where it's all mechanical. And then if I get into a position, I can play with positions over and over again. I'm looking to leg ride, or I'm looking to lock somebody down, because the biggest thing in MMA is to lock up their legs so they can't get back up, but also free your hands. And so that's the thing that we're always worrying about, is that like, okay, I want to take my opponent down, but if I take my opponent down and he wants to get back up, I have to use something besides my hands to hold him down, because otherwise I'm not going to punch him at all. That's where you kind of like studied guys like Khabib and Islam, and you see the leg rides that they're doing. And then you see Craig Jones, and Craig Jones has a really good instructional on it. Like, buy my stuff first. But if you're bored of my stuff because it's so great and you've already become so amazing, Craig Jones has a really, really good, and that's the funny thing, is that I understand that he's good at that because of how good he is at everything else in jiu-jitsu. His mechanical understanding at such a high level that you could put him against anything, like what they have, the pit wall. Gosh knows how much stuff that they've created off of just that slant. It changes jiu-jitsu so much. So it's one of those things where sometimes I have to get a control myself and realize, like, my fighters can only understand so much at a certain amount of period, but you're also trying to work and give your fighters the stuff that they resound with. I think that's the right word. Resound.
Resonate.
Maybe not resonate. There we go. I'm very good at coming close to words.
Yeah. Malachy is the B team of words. Yeah.
Yeah. Words are, I'm close to every word that I'm trying to get to. Yeah. So, so you try to teach as much as you can because you never know what's going to latch on to somebody and that's going to be something that really opens up their game. And so jujitsu's like that, and then you find out that, man, I haven't touched my own game in forever because I mean, my game is this much stuff, and I know this much inside of here, and I know I know two or three defenses to single leg X. I know two or three defenses to X guard. I know one or two setups here, one or two there. If I dial myself into one of those positions, but I'm not going into an X guard masterclass when I'm grappling because X guard works for me with several different techniques. And I like to get to a certain point where my game now evolves or changes from X guard, but in order to be a teacher, you have to show the things that aren't necessarily your go-to because you're teaching people that X guard might be their only go-to sooner or later. It's something that they'll divulge, whatever.
Diverge.
Diverge into, there you go, man. there's no way I can get to the words.
One of the things I want to touch on, let's just touch on the gi no gi thing, but more or less the no gi thing. What I've noticed in your content, especially your Instagram content as of late, I don't see the gi. I see you wearing gi pants sometimes, but it looks like it's primarily, if not all, no gi. It looks like.
And I would say it's by chance. I don't think people realize how hard it is to shoot content. Like shooting content and having other things that you need to do throughout the day, and then also having content that you believe in. Like, so a lot of the content I put out, I believe in most of that content. I believe that content is good content and it's not shit. It's something that I would teach or I would show to somebody that I have, like, let's say I look up to, I would show them that because I believe in what I'm showing and I believe in what I'm explaining to people. I'm not always able to get into the gym where somebody, like, you have to have a Yuki, right? So like my Yuki necessarily doesn't do jujitsu. And so it makes the reels look weird. Like if I have somebody that falls weird or doesn't do the right positioning or isn't sitting in the right manner, or I try to do a move and they're just unaware of how their body should be moving and the techniques, it kind of makes it look junky, or sometimes it just doesn't work like it should because this person doesn't understand what's supposed to be happening, and so that it's just weird. So I'm running into a lot more of my MMA fighters, so I'm working with my MMA fighters a lot more when I have that free time to shoot. And so, or sometimes only my MMA fighters are the ones that are available when I call them, like, hey, can you come over? I need to shoot some stuff. They're the ones. So I move towards the MMA stuff because I want to be more involved in MMA again. I'm enjoying working with some of the top ranked guys and some coaches that are really brilliant. And I always want to show my jujitsu stuff, but sometimes it just comes to like, either I've already shown it, the guy won't understand, the guy who I'm doing it with is not going to make it look like, is not going to be a great Yuki for it, or my body might just not be in that like, I have, how many injuries I got. I got 3 spine surgeries. My arm might not be working. This might not feel good. And so maybe my standing techniques are going to be working, like my cage takedowns and things. But yeah, I would say the gi is something that I love. I love showing. I love teaching. And I think there's a lot of guys that do it really well on the internet already, like on Instagram. And so currently with my creations or my adaptations to things or my explanations with things, it's been no-gi. It's been MMA more than anything else. So I'll show the MMA stuff and I'll have the gi ready, but the gi just never comes out because either I run out of time or maybe there's a lot more pressing things with the MMA that I want to get out to people about, like, oh, well, this fight happened. This is what happened. This is why, Michael Chandler lost this position, breaking down those kind of fights. And so it just becomes a little bit easier. And plus, since I'm watching a lot more MMA fights, it becomes like, oh, that's a mistake. So I am able to pull that off of the internet, put that together and be like, this is why this person didn't finish the mounted guillotine. So it's one of those situations where I'll probably be back in the gi like nothing, but it's just by chance.
So if we want to find MMA information, what you've offered Mad Lab or
on the school MMA Mastermind, I've gifted everything that I've done on, at least for my techniques and my stuff, to Joachim, and Joachim is running the site MMA Mastermind. So you'll see me on there. You'll see my new stuff on there, but everything goes to Joachim, and Joachim is pretty much handling the site itself and any sales or anything that's going on with that kind of deal. I'm just really I'm supporting him and hope to be working with him sooner than later.
Wow, guest, that was really interesting. But did you know, throughout history, salt has been highly valued and commonly used as currency? Warriors and sailors were sometimes given rations of salt for their wages. If they were worthy, they were said to have earned their salt. Salt Electrolytes drink mix is designed for today's warriors, athletes, and those who get after it and work up a sweat regularly. If you're eating healthy, drinking plenty of water, and working out, you need to replenish your electrolytes. With a light, refreshing flavor, salt is great to drink during your workout because it will not coat your mouth with a thick film. Salt contains 6 different electrolytes, with a touch of iodine to help maintain a healthy thyroid. No sugar, no color, no BS. Go earn your salt. And on top of that, if you use code FWB, how much should we give you off? 5%? 10%? Nah, 15%, just because we're friends. Now go get it. Salt Electrolytes. It's amazing you mentioned it, leg control stuff. And it's my month of leg righty stuff that I've been working on. And I find in general, especially for the hobbyist, that type of control, especially within jiu-jitsu, is lower prioritized. I rarely see it really emphasized. I typically see upper body control or leg entries and that kind of stuff. But this leg righting stuff and just controlling the legs is so powerful, I'm finding. It shuts down so much stuff.
Yeah. I mean, listen, for MMA, if you're not using them, your coach isn't teaching them, you're fucked. I don't know how else to say it. Like, it is one of the most dominant ways to control somebody and to free your hands so that you're able to beat the crap out of it. As far as jiu-jitsu, I've always been a smash guy. You know what I mean? Like, so some of the jiu-jitsu stuff that is like the newer age jiu-jitsu where I like scrambly things too. I like making highlights and stuff. But like, if you look at guys like Rodolfo Vieira, I've taken certain things that Rodolfo does and translated that into MMA because of how valuable that smash pass is, right? So if your viewers understand the smash pass sequence, it's probably one of the best ways of passing guard, losing guard, and stepping over into that smash pass where you have both legs straddling both legs and being able to not easily, but really have a good chance at passing the guard completely once you step over those both legs. So you go, well, that makes a ton of sense. Well, we should be teaching this knee slide and then they hip escape out. And how do I go backwards? I'm not going to go keep running forwards because they're going to lasso or they're going to create frames or they're going to create some kind of guard out of this. So rather than that, getting there early and cutting the hips and stepping over to a smash pass situation would be in your benefit rather than fighting for that one pass itself. So you start to set yourself up to the knee slide or the dope mount. It's almost like a leg ride in itself. And you get back to the side control or you go to mount is the same thing that I've done with MMA. So I said, there's value there, right? So if there's value in passing guard and the person can't escape out, and usually you can get a pass from smash pass, then usually I can probably step over the legs and I can punch from smash pass until I get to a mount position or I get to a side control to step over position. Jiu-jitsu is its kind of own worst enemy, is that it gets away from things that are really, really valuable. And we look for things that create as many points as possible. And I'm not someone who talks trash on the point system. I completely believe in point system jiu-jitsu because I believe that each dominant position has its valuable detail. And of course it should be worth points, because if we were fighting and I swept you and I'm on top, I should get 2 points because now you're in a weaker situation. If I pass your guard, right, now I'm in a better position to finish you, submit you, beat you, however. So, but just the way that we get to those 2 points has been kind of bastardized. And I think like a lot of people are always asking me well, did the berimbolo ruin jiu-jitsu or did leg locks ruin jiu-jitsu? It hasn't ruined jiu-jitsu, or it hasn't stopped it from, it just makes other people more efficient and more effective earlier, but less efficient and less effective later, if that makes sense. Like, I believe that like the blue belt berimbolo guy is going to get smashed when he goes into purple and brown, but he's got a good system as far as blue and purple belts go. And you go, well, that's just slowing him down. Like, it sucks because you have to you have to teach other people how to defend that and how to get through those positions. But when it starts getting a little bit more progressive and it starts getting more, has more levels, so let's say more layers to the jiu-jitsu, those people don't have an answer. So it's kind of funny when I used to train, we bring us some big people down to top team. So when I was training at top team, a guy would berimbolo me, and I'm pretty seasoned in stopping the berimbolo. I mean, of course, it wasn't Keenan and it wasn't Meows. It wasn't, so none of those guys were berimboloing me. I'm sure that would have been a different story. But once you pass a berimbolo guy's guard, a lot of times I was running into them just quitting and letting me go to mount, letting me get my submission. And it's kind of awkward because then I'm like, what's the deal? And they don't know what to do. Once you pass their guard, once you stop the berimbolo, they're like, well, and so that was something that kind of irked me for a while, is that we became so obsessed with getting so good at a move to beat people that we weren't really ever being good at jiu-jitsu, right? So like if you know a bunch of heel hooks here, like a heel hook attacks, and you know it better than you make that your Bible, you're going to eat up a lot of guys that are as good as you, but not as good as you at that one thing. And they can't get past that. But you're never going to get farther in your division, because once you go with a guy that knows what he's doing there, you're screwed and you invested all your time in one thing. So it's kind of like, I never shoo away too many techniques, but sometimes, yeah, techniques have their way of slowing down the progression. And I think taking away the smashing of jiu-jitsu, like people have disliked me on Instagram for things I've spoken about before, which is saying, I don't want to see Khabib Nurmagomedov fight a guy who's going to heel hook him. Like I don't want to see that. And then people are like, well, if he can't protect it, then he's obviously just not good enough to be a part of that. I'm like, no, dude, you're talking about one of the best grapplers in the world. You're talking about one of the best grapplers in the world, and he's made his grappling particular for one thing. His one thing is to beat your ass and control you. And he can probably change that without the punches and everything else. But if you're just going to invert and go for your leg locks and your things like this, you're probably going to catch him. If that's how zoned in you are on leg locks, I want to see him versus George St. Pierre, right? I want to see Khabib, George St. Pierre. That's a good match, because I don't think either guy's looking to fall back for a leg. And it kind of reminds me of when they put like Diego Sanchez and different guys into the ADCC, and it wasn't so specialized where you could have those good matches where you saw guys with good jiu-jitsu, good grappling, good wrestling going into an ADCC match. Now, of course, not being the most dominant or beating everybody, but having good, fun matches. I think sometimes, going blue belt rules with superstars or guys that are like at a super level, I think are important. The same thing, I think, who fought Bo Nickel? Gordon Ryan, right? There were funky rules, but that's what's fun. I think people need to realize that too, is like, hey, there's some really good matches to make. We don't always have to make it about who's the best.
Going back to the leg ride real quick, because I understand the smash and all that, but what really fascinated me about this sort of leg control thing is just keeping the feet up in the air. It just shuts down so much classic offense, like, and even escapes. We can go to the classic, like our old sort of like, you sit up to, from close guard into a Kimura. You're not going to sit up if you have no feet that can hit the ground, right? So
Yeah.
that kind of thing, or even from the top, man, where people are trying to invert or whatever, and you keep those feet up or you got those legs clamped.
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably drop some stuff on my site whenever this podcast goes, just so people can see some of the things. I mean, like one of the most brilliant things I think that is there with the biomechanics is that if I can get your top leg, I changed my jujitsu to the fact of that I want top hook. I don't want the bottom hook. So normally when we're in half guard, right, we want bottom hook, or if we're on the back, we want bottom hook, right? Our bottom hook is our power hook, because that's what keeps the person inside our back control. It changes when we go to mixed martial arts, because the top leg is the one that's going to be able to lock down the top. So if I can kind of hip in and lock out your hip flexor, you're not going to have any rotation. So if I can also lock down the top arm, then you have no top side rotation. So your shoulders can't rotate and your hips can't rotate. If I fill the space in between your legs more, that same thing happens. So if I can get my knee through the middle of your leg, so let's say I'm in half guard, the top leg is in, it's almost like quarter mount, except I'm inside the guard still. And I slide my knee up as high as I can go, so your knee goes up high. I'm filling the space so that you're no longer explosive. So being able to have these certain controls and work through, not even taking both legs off of the ground, but just connecting to one leg off the ground and being able to stop rotation is one of the biggest things that are going to set up for MMA, going to set up my hands to be free, going to set up me to work up to the back. If I look for your back, if I look for a choke and I dive in from the top half, as I call it, top half control, and I slide for the neck, if you turn into me, I'm still on top. So because we don't want to end up on bottom. So we don't want our hooks ever to be our bottom hook, because if it's our bottom hook they escape out of, then that's the one that they're going to end up on top of us. So if they end up killing our bottom hook, that's them on top of us. In MMA, we don't want to lose that position. Top position is more important than anything else. So I think it's just interesting the ways that we've adapted our training in jiu-jitsu, but now have adapted it for MMA, so that I'm more concerned with how my opponent's going to be controlled on his bottom half than I am controlled on his top half. So it's like I'm not worried about my underhooks. I'm not worried about anything else. The only thing I really worry about is having my arm underneath his back, right? Because I don't want him ever turning that half guard into a bottom half guard. So like if I'm in top half and I have you facing towards my leg that's inside the half guard, as long as I have my arm framed along the back of your spine, you can't turn your back and face me. And there's also some stuff like Gordon does, like, this little lock he does over top of the bicep and behind the neck. It's practically the same thing, is that he's preventing that roll to that side. He's forcing you to either give the back or be stuck and give the head and arm and different things like that. Maybe some of the people will be able to take a couple good looks at some of the stuff that we're doing, because I'm excited about it. It's one of those things where when I start working on new projects and I start finding stuff that isn't being used, and I'm showing, high ranked MMA guys these things, and they're like, oh shit, this is something different. I like this. It's always fun. And I think that there's going to be a huge swing for most fighters, because how good some of these guys are at takedowns, they're wasting their takedowns because they're not able to control the takedown. I watch most fights. Most fights in the takedown does not last longer than 45 seconds. The guy's back up. And it's fun to look at old stuff. So I've been watching Fedor videos. One of the reasons why I'm watching Fedor is that I have a lot of amateurs. Ground and pound works really, really well when you can elbow people. When you're holding my gloves and I can strip your gloves and I can drop an elbow over top and I can cause damage that way, there's a lot of times I can get through. It's very hard just to punch somebody with just punches. So like when you're just punching and they have their arms and they can grab at your wrists and they can block their head, with the amount of distance you have, it's very hard to land good punches or land a succession of good punches. And then I go, well, Fedor was in that rule set. So my amateurs are in a rule set where they can't throw elbows. But Fedor, one of the most known ground and pound guys in the world, was in that rule set where in Pride you couldn't throw elbows. And I've just been studying the living crap out of the things that he's been doing, and things that just looked like crazy brazen flying has a lot of details behind it.
Some of you people, I know you're out there going crazy saying like he pronounces it Fedor, and some people pronounce it Fedor. I know. So don't go nuts, people out there. I know you're going nuts out there.
Dude,
I hear from it all the time.
I do. I don't know if they'll put this out or not, but I did a breakdown of Gilbert Burns and Jack Della Maddalena. So listen,
don't ask me that one,
but
man.
yeah. So
yeah. I don't speak Russian, so I don't know if it's Fedor or Fedor. So who knows?
But I ended up just saying, like, I don't know. I made a joke kind of like where I was like Jack Mamadele Malema, because I could not get it down. So I was like, I'm just going to say it how the hell it's going to come out.
Just a reminder to please give us a 5-star review on Apple Music and Spotify, and become a VIP member for only 99 cents a month. Get ad-free episodes at anchor.fm/foreverwhitebelt/subscribe, and check us out on Instagram at Forever White Belt Show. Go buy your Forever White Belt swag at teespring.com/forever-white-belt. Check us out on YouTube now at Forever White Belt. Finally, if you ever get to beautiful Northern California, please come roll with us at North Bay Jiu-Jitsu in Marin County, just north of San Francisco. They're amazing instructors, and everyone there are great people. Mention the podcast and get 2 weeks free. You're such a unique instructor with so much unique content and insights and things that I've never heard before, oftentimes real. And that's why so many of us, I think, glean to your stuff. And yet I'm sure within your local community, it's just like, this is what we learned. What's the big deal kind of thing. And you don't realize the true value, where people outside of that particular local sphere of Malachy as to provide are like, oh man, where has this been? You know what I mean? Where has this information been? And it's from day
Yeah,
one. First episode, I mentioned this to you. Your Darce defense stuff was my gateway drug, so to speak, into the world of Malachy, and totally blew my mind.
thank you. I think it's hard being a coach that coaches every day. I think it's hard being a coach that coaches regular everyday people because they have some everyday regular people have everyday regular aspirations, which is like I want to get a blue belt and I want to beat Jim from Costco. I want to choke him out because he caught me in a leg lock last Thursday. Like there's different aspirations for each of these people, and when you go out and that's why doing seminars keeps me sane, because being able to go out there, having people that have followed me online and are excited to learn from me and I know that I'm going to bring them some stuff that they haven't seen. I'm going to bring them concepts that they haven't talked. Lately I've been doing a certain concept of my seminar where maybe I'll teach the Heisengard. Heisengard 2 is out now. I've done Heisengard 2, which is all modern jiu-jitsu mixed with Heisengard. Malaplata, which is like an omoplata off of the Heisengard. And I did low-hanging fruit, which was for side control, which was like, not a side control, it was for closed guard. I also did a side control one for my members. But I've been busy making content. One of the things is that I get to be around people that have been wanting and waiting to see something. And I know that if I show them something new, like I was saying, my concept was how to get at the armbar. Like there's a simple way to free the arm from the body. This is attacking the thumb grip. And because the thumb's always going to be the opening and the peel and the weakest lever. So because if I pinch this hand like this, right, this muscle splits and now I become twice as weak in my forearm. So I'll pick up, maybe they want the Heisengard, but I'll make sure that the Heisengard technique that goes to the triangle, then I give my triangle details. And maybe there's some details that people have never explained or have never shown. So I make sure that my seminars are for beginners and advanced people. So they get to learn the Heisengard, they get to learn the Heisengard to the triangle. And then the people that can never aren't going to be able to get the Heisengard to the triangle, they're going to be able to learn finishing techniques to the triangle where they probably will wind up more often.
So it truly is something for everyone.
Yeah, I've really worked hard on that because it's one of those things where I know people want me to show them the newest stuff or the newest guard or the newest thing. And after doing so many different seminars and doing things for people, some people that just won't get it, they're just not going to take anything back from this. So I thought, well, the seminars that meant the most to me were the seminars that I took something away that changed my jiu-jitsu forever. So my biggest goal is to show the smallest details of things that are going to make sure that they get their triangles, going to make sure that their arm bars are better, to make sure that their entry to their omoplata is better or their finishes are better, but still incorporating it into the larger form of the Heisengard or incorporating it into, certain things like that. So I was like, if I can show a bunch of stuff that makes my jujitsu, like my omoplata is like this because I believe it has to be like this because of the benefits it gives me doing it this way. And if I show those people that and it works for them and they are able to do that for the next 6 years, my seminar's 10 times worth it, right? 10 times worth it. I always say it's like, if you can give me a new technique that's going to change my jiu-jitsu forever, it's worth $1,000. And then being able to go out and doing seminars keeps me sane because I'm putting so much work into creating different systems, creating things that most likely happen, like a system of chained reactions to defenses, to normal defenses that are going to happen, the most efficient thing that would work next. And so it's kind of like a B, C, D, E. You may be done at B, but if it keeps going, these are the best answers of chains that you can add to your game. So when I'm able to work with a group of people that haven't had that kind of attention or haven't had that kind of jiu-jitsu detail, or maybe they've been really excited to watch this kind of stuff, and I can share things that I'm excited to share. Because like as a coach, there's no point in me doing any of this stuff, no point in me teaching anything if I'm not enjoying myself. The biggest thing I want is somebody to see that aha moment, like where I give that to them, and that's my thing. I enjoyed grappling for competition. I enjoyed training for competition. My age, my injuries, everything's gotten ahead of me. The next thing I want is to make somebody else happy because I gave them something that's going to change the way that they do jujitsu, or it's something that we connect on that level of like, oh, you see what I saw? And they're like, oh yeah, I see that. I'm like, it's kind of like that student teacher bond that you get this over that one technique that's like, oh shit, okay. And it's crazy because you live for moments like that. And the seminars keep you sane because you don't get that in your own home. And I tell this to every seminar I do. I'm like, just guys, listen. Like, if I'm at I went to like maybe I did a seminar at Joel Tudor's, right? I was like, just so you guys know, whatever you guys believe is like cool and like okay, well Joel's showing this, and you guys think what I'm showing is when Joel comes over and does anything at my academy, I'm like blowing my head. I'm like, you don't understand. This is crazy, guys. But that's their normal coach. And they're not like, like lovesick into the position of where they're like, this guy's amazing. It's like, no, dude, your coach is amazing. If he would tell you, if he was teaching me, I'd be excited every single moment that I was in class. I think instructors are definitely coaches that coach normally every single day or something like this, to be able to teach a seminar and connect with people outside of it and see that how you're viewed in other academies or other countries or other states or other jiu-jitsu, whatever, that you're respected that way is like keeps you ticking.
It's amazing that you're talking about this because a couple episodes ago, I had Island Top Team's head coach Rob Bernacki, Canadian
Genius.
black belt under Kaio, on the show, and he was talking about how he's learned to live his life now, going in a direction of passion versus like just pure finances or money. He overtly sort of admitted that I've got maybe a year more with my academy, but I feel my passion is moving towards seminars and traveling this globe because of all those things that you just stated, Malachy, that feeling that we won't understand because we don't coach seminars, so we don't know. But whatever you guys are getting is fueling people like yourself and him to keep doing this and traveling throughout the world and doing this thing. I can see the fire in his eyes now. And he's got this secondary sort of like afterburner kind of push now in terms of his career. And he's been in jujitsu for so long, just like yourself, right?
Yeah.
And then in this last episode, I just spoke with a guy, Nelson Puentes, who's a coach too, and he was talking about the $100 move, where he went to a seminar and Craig Jones seminar, and as an afterthought, this was before the Choi bar was really popularized. Craig Jones was talking about this new sort of arm bar that he'd been playing with, right, as sort of an afterthought, and he showed this thing, and that was it, right? It was the early stages of the Choi bar before it hit the sort of meta of jujitsu. And so it's amazing that you're talking about these two things sort of converging, now where you're touching on these things.
Yeah. I would say it's super difficult to wake up without a purpose. Like in my academy for 10 years, we've been open. Before I owned an academy, I was still going to tournaments and I was coaching kids and I was coaching adults and I was doing all this stuff and I was spending time on the road. I was spending time away from home. I'm doing everything I can possibly do to make my competitors happy, confident and happy that as a coach that I'm supporting them. So I'm traveling from here, getting a hotel overnight here, getting here. And it becomes, you get run down a bit and you go, well, okay, what I'm teaching, I'm going to teach this technique. And you realize like over 10 years, I've taught a lot of the same stuff over and over again because it's a rotating door of people that stay and go. And so of course you're going to have to re-go over the same things. And if I don't feel like I've nailed anything down with anybody, like I don't feel like I'm hitting my marks with certain people, it sucks if that becomes that. It becomes like, well, I don't want to teach today. I don't feel like it. I don't feel like going through all this stuff. I don't feel like doing this right now. It's nobody's fault, but when you've had the seminars, when you've sat at night and you were taking notes and you were building this seminar and you're creating this thing and you know that you're going to be around 50 people that are expecting a kick-ass seminar, and you go in and you deliver it and people are extremely happy with it, and then you come home and it's not the same. It's just not the same, and it's not to blame anybody. I think there's a trick in being a coach, and sometimes that's going to be like keeping the mystique. Like when Laborio was head coach of Top Team, like when he came in, he wasn't always there, but when he came in and he did something or taught a class, everybody was ready. Everybody was there. but Laboria wasn't teaching often. You know what I mean? He taught now and then. Sometimes you come in with the pros, yeah, and so the some of the value was heightened because everybody loves Lebo and everybody's excited to learn from Lebo. And if Lebo taught every single day, possibly the mystique goes to a degree. So, like I'm sure if I taught a seminar in that whatever country, state, city I was just in, that they may get used to it. It may become just the run of the mill thing. So it's the same thing if Billie Eilish did Dallas, Texas every Saturday, not that many people would be going to Billie Eilish. She could say, I'm creating a new song. Say, listen, guys, every Saturday you get a different album from me. Maybe people would visit and go to Dallas just for Billie Eilish. But at some point, people in Dallas are going to stop going to Billie Eilish concerts because it's oversaturation.
She probably would not want to perform in Dallas every day too, right?
No,
Or whatever.
no, yeah. Yeah, that's kind of like the thing where you get into like where you go, where's my reach? What challenges and what makes me happy? Well, I get super excited when I'm around talented people. And that doesn't mean that my athletes aren't talented. It doesn't mean anything like that. But talking about positions, talking about, different things that we're looking at, breaking things down with other coaches that I really respect or just even fighters and seeing them implement my stuff and they're able to implement it because they're at a higher level. I have several fighters that are very good, very high level. I have several competitors, coaches that are very good, very high level. But it's just different when I get to sit with like one of my friends, Joachim, or I get to sit with Jared Brooks and I get to go over leg rides with him and he's, the ONE FC champion and he's got a fight coming up. It's just different motivation. And that's the times where I'm forgetting to look at the clock. Like all of a sudden it's 10:30 at night. I don't remember the last time I stayed 10:30 at night at my spot, but 10:30 at night there was because, man, we had so much to cover. We were rolling about all different kinds of things that could have been created. Like you're in that atmosphere of growth. And I'm learning from them as they're doing my techniques and they're showing me, okay, I like this. What if I do this? And I'm actively learning my own things and testing my own things with somebody at a high level that's able to construct it, deconstruct it, rip it apart, or build off of it. And it's just amazing to have those moments. And whether it's MMA, whether it's Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, those are the times so I love teaching regular people. I love teaching people that want my techniques, that want I believe I give a certain kind of service or a certain kind of jiu-jitsu. My jiu-jitsu is routed in finding the small adaptations to details that could maybe change, or there's a move here. There's an extra detail that if you pay attention to this extra detail, you're going to have 90% more success. If you're able to do this, your success is going to go up, right? And it's just small tinkering with things like that and finding people that really resonate to that. And I get to chop things up and break down. That's something that really appreciates what I have to show them. But then on top of that, being around coaches. And that's why I was like, when I go to San Diego, it's just another world. I go to Las Vegas, San Diego, and I get to be around, I met up with Barrett Yoshida and I got crucifixed. I had a hell of a time in that crucifix.
Again, touching back on this Bernanke conversation that I had, you two, have been in the game for so long and you both seem to be saying very similar things. And it's an interesting sort of arc in your careers where he's saying something like, I put decades into this academy and okay, sure. I used to love working with the guy who just, came a couple days a week to just, maybe he wants some community or, this woman, maybe she wants to lose a little bit of weight or something like that. But it's something different when you go and do a seminar somewhere else where people are truly seeking excellence, right? And he's like, I want to work with people who are seeking excellence now. And I'm finding that's where my passion is driving me towards now.
Yeah. I think if we don't feel creative, right, we don't feel like we're allowed to be creative, we're allowed to be artistic. And I think a lot of people mistake coaching and sports for something that's a game. So the funny thing is that I watch a lot of basketball and I don't understand it that much, right? Like I'm not a huge basketball, where I break things down, but I have to get away from my sport where it's just jiu-jitsu or it's just MMA. And I like to watch how other people break down what offenses are doing, why somebody's so good at a strategic defense, and that the game's been around for so long. And there's people that are still breaking the mold with different offenses, different ways of looking at the basketball, the ways that they're approaching it. It's an art. It's somebody who understands their craft so well that one offensive scheme that is going to float away at some point. So I was just watching this thing about the Memphis Grizzlies offense, and it's something so simple. It's where the guy who cuts the ball, because it goes to the right, everybody moves to the right. If he cuts the ball to the left, everybody goes to the left. And it was something so simple and stupid, but it opened up a shooter every single time, or it opened up the lane for the drive. And to understand that a coach put that together, the simplicity of it had maybe 13 to 20 games where they weren't able to be stopped with this offense until people were trying to, you know what I mean? That's that kind of artistic, like that guy, whoever drew that up and whoever figured that out, it will be forgotten in 2 years and maybe it'll come back out again. It's something that I appreciate on every level of watching really, really talented people create something that will be forgotten or will be negated. But it's just that constant flow of creativity, that constant flow of, well, what if I add this? What can I do if I do this? Where can this go? How far can I go with this until it runs out? Like, how far can I go with the Heisengard until the Heisengard runs out? How far with this leg ride and this series of leg rides do I need to go before it's countered and there's something else that goes along with it? That's how I felt about the Darce. Like, I still feel like my Darce defense is better than anybody else's Darce defense. Anybody can say whatever they want. I've gone every single place that I could possibly go in the world with guys that know what they're doing and stop a fully locked Darce. And that came from me just really, really sitting into the situation and realizing nobody's looking for an answer here. Nobody's looking for an answer of escaping this position. Nobody's looking for it. They're thinking that this position is the end all be all, because once it's locked up, you can maybe underhook and maybe the guy doesn't have it perfect. But that's not how we handle rear naked chokes. That's not how we handle arm bars. That's not how we handle any of these other positions. I think it's interesting, especially with, like, I haven't gone too far down the rabbit hole on the buggy choke. But there's a huge explosion, right? This buggy choke comes out. There's a huge explosion. Everybody's getting finished by the buggy choke. Then there's different attacks from the buggy choke. And then the buggy choke slows down because people are recognizing the immediate need to where to put their hands when they feel something like this happening, right? And I just think that being around people that are trying to figure that stuff out, they're looking at this in a way of going, okay, you know, what do we do with this J-Rod guy who's constantly choking out everybody from side control? It becomes a creative output for the coaches. I didn't get a chance to do that, but I know that there was a lot of coaches that were deep diving into buggy choke defense, different escapes, how to stop these positions. The same as me looking at Barrett Yoshida's stuff and studying his crucifix, and then seeing, like, you know, with the over the top double overhooks, and where he starts pulling that together and piecing things apart with the crucifix. It's like, man, there's a lot of people that are creative and artistic work, but it's so nice to be around somebody who is creating jiu-jitsu techniques and constantly giving everybody else in the world something to try to tear apart. I got to tear apart the Darce. I got to tear apart, you know, this position. I need to make sure that this works. You know, like, if my fighter's in this position, how are we going to, I'm looking at escapes from like I have a ton of leg ride stuff. So if you guys go on MMA Mastermind on School, you'll see a ton of leg rides, right? We have our own leg ride system called Joma. The Joma leg ride, I showed it to Mario Sperry. And Mario Sperry, I was at the 1FC championship, and he had a fighter that had a body lock, and they had the guy on turtle, and then he was punching, then went back to body lock, punching, back to body lock. And the guy stood up, he took him back down, body lock. And I'm like, Mario, let me show you this, you know, like, if you don't mind. And I showed him the leg ride series, and I gave him the link to all of our leg ride stuff from the turtle. Loved it. Like, when I'm showing it to him, he's like, oh shit. It's like, yeah, like, you can lock this guy down in this position and free up your left hand. And you get to show, it's exciting. You get to show people that kind of stuff. So for there to be a position that people have to break down, you create something and somebody has to tear it apart, or else it's going to eat up. Like, cause you think, like, well, was this the end of jiu-jitsu? You know, like the Barambola, was this the end of jiu-jitsu? The honey hole, is this the end of jiu-jitsu? It feels like that at times, because it goes like, oh shit, this is the ace in the hole. How are you getting out of this? How are you going to, but people are going to be creative and people are going to figure it out and they're going to study and they're going to be a part of it. But in order for those people to study it and be a part of it, they have to have the creative inspiration and they need to be around people that you can check it and test it with. When I went to San Diego, it was an eye opener of how little my nogi jujitsu was. Like, so some of my nogi jujitsu was underdeveloped because I'm like, I'm not thinking about passing guard. Right. So I'm like, shit, like I'm on top and I'm like, okay, I want to pass, but in nogi, I'm not trying to pass. In nogi, I'm trying to leg ride and open up punches. Because once I pass the guard in MMA, I open up freedom of the hips. Once I would open up freedom of the hips, any high level athlete will be able to rotate his hips and probably get back to his feet. So we don't pass in MMA. Like, and also there's no reason for me to pass because it doesn't open up anything for me. It also constricts me because now I have to use my two hands to hold my opponent down. And if I try to come up and punch, I give space and distance. And so then I'm playing with these kind of games. I'm like, whoa, man, this is interesting. And to be able to get smoked by one or two guys and like start to go back and go like, okay, well, what do I need to do if I'm going to play my nogi game for jujitsu? Where do I need to start? And where do I need to pay attention to again? And just being around guys that are really intelligent, running into Chris Lieben and seeing some of his wall work stuff. And sometimes the most simple things are the right answer. Sometimes it's not creating the Da Vinci and it's creating a stick figure and realizing that the stick figure painting is more valuable than the Mona Lisa because of how it works, because it works more often than the Mona Lisa. And you just have to live with that. You know what I mean? Because everybody wants to make things more complex, more angles to it. But it's the stick figure. The stick figure works 9 out of 10 times. Stick figure first, Mona Lisa second. But being able to be around coaches, I give all the credit to Joachim Ingberg in Sweden, who kind of reeled me back into MMA, seeing the stuff that he was doing and me coaching some of his fighters out there, bringing back my passion of like, oh shit, there's more out here. And what I was saying before with the gi made my MMA better than any no-gi jiu-jitsu ever would, because no-gi is a lot about scrambling, creating scrambles, creating high intensity movements to submissions or to escapes. Whereas in the gi, I'm really trying to hold you in one spot and slowly take up more real estate until I submit you. Right. So I'm trying to dominate you. And then to go, well, you don't have pants. No, but you have tendons behind your knee. I'm going to grab that tendon behind your knee and that's what I'm going to pull on. You know, it's like you don't have the pants to push like you need this grip here and like you pushing with your palm. And it's like, yeah, but I can do that exact same thing when I'm pushing on the shin bone. I don't need the pants. Because I figured out where my hands should go in gi, where my hands should be pulling and lifting, where I should be pulling and turning, pushing my pressure into the same positions that I do in gi. I do in no gi MMA, which is smash and control positions, lift legs, shelf things. So it's kind of like the same thing where I feel like if I hadn't been so involved in the gi, I wouldn't have the kind of understanding I have now of grappling against a cage or grappling against somebody and opening up leg rides and punches and stuff.
You know, that's interesting. We'll go back a little bit. I had this guest, and I know you say that you don't like to shit on points or anything like that, but I had a guest named Raul Adu from Amsterdam, black belt, fantastic black belt. And he was talking about, he had a little hot take in terms of like, he said, side control is shit. And the reason he said that is to your very point. I would rather stay in like a half guard, go leg ride, get that Khabib grip with the arm behind the back, and look how much control I have. This is fantastic. But you mentioned like the passing incentive. Like, of course you don't want to pass.
Right. But in gi jiu-jitsu, I like passing. That's probably my favorite part of jiu-jitsu because for me, that's the insult to a guard player. A good guard player who's playing spider guard with me, I want so badly to smash his guard and pass it and for him to know that like that he got his guard pass because that's the game we're playing. We're playing guard versus guard passer. And the guard guy has submissions and sweeps and I have passing and I'm not going to fall back for a leg lock, but you know, like I have that. And so it's kind of like the two people battling that position out. And I really enjoy passing versus guard playing. But when we're talking about MMA, we're talking about really controlling somebody. So I don't want to go past anywhere his hips can flatten out. where his hips can flatten, where his legs can scissor, where he can create any kind of movement or momentum with his lower body, his upper body is going to follow. I want to be in no gi submission fighting. I want to pass the guard only because I'm rewarded with more space to take position and submission. If you do no gi without points, I feel like it's the most boring thing on God's green earth because I like passing and sweeping. I like a guard player to feel like it's an insult to pass his guard. There's guys like out there that like, man, you're not going to pass this guy's spider guard. When you pass that guy's spider guard, you're like, oh shit. You know, it's like one of those moments, like watching Lepre or watching Leandro Lowe pass somebody's guard was really exciting. You can't take that away from the game. But if you got guys just falling to the butt every time that they see something that might work, it kind of becomes stale. But that's just my opinion. That's just my viewership opinion. And that's a lot of times where I think people on the internet or people on Instagram, they made, oh, well, that's bullshit. I hate this guy's reply or this guy's. I don't run any tournaments yet. Like I don't run a tournament. I'm not the owner of jiu-jitsu. When I turn on the TV or I turn on a match of a jiu-jitsu match that I'm going to watch, I am the same as you. You know, even if I have 24 years of training, I'm the same as you. I'm watching for my entertainment. And for my entertainment, I don't prefer watching this style of jiu-jitsu. You know, and it's always been something like that. Like, not to talk trash on certain people's games, but there's always been somebody in the ADCC that was boring as crap, that tugged on somebody's head, got a takedown, and then tried to work some shitty passing for here and there, but going off of maybe a 2-point takedown or some kind of, you know what I mean? Like that's always been around, and that's not my style. That's somebody trying to win around the way that the rules are set. And if people love watching people follow leg locks, then Mikey Musumeci is your cup of tea. I prefer watching the Rotolo brothers. I prefer that in-your-face insulting jiu-jitsu where it's like, I'm going to take you down. Even if you're a high-level wrestler, I'm not going to pull guard. I'm going to try to take you down. And I wouldn't care if they pulled guard or not, but it was interesting to see when they were going against those high-level wrestlers at CGI that they were not going to pull guard, that they were going to go forward, and that they were going to try to make this match happen, insulting the other person by taking the other person down. And so you go, well, okay, well, that's more my style of jiu-jitsu. That's not me for entertainment, but that doesn't mean that's everybody's style of entertainment. A lot of people like it, but it's, you know, like I would rather see somebody do an upper body submission than a lower body submission. And if I watch the Rotolo brothers, I'm probably going to get that more than I'm going to get if I watch a Mikey Musumeci fight. Not to say that I don't respect the shit out of masters of our game. This is my opinion for my style of excitement and entertainment. Inside the rules, if you win that way, you win that way. The funniest thing I think is that people hate people pushing people against the cage nowadays and staying there. Like you'll hear them boo like almost immediately. Randy Couture became the biggest hero in America for doing some of the most stalling wrestling against the cage ever. He didn't beat the crap out of people like Khabib did. He didn't bust these guys up. He did good. I mean, there's times, but I remember watching the fight with him and Gabriel Gonzaga. That was one of the most boring fights I could ever remember in my life. Him and Vitor Belfort, man. But because he was 40 years old, because he was beating all of these guys, we accepted it and we were excited and we were cheering for it. The moment it wasn't a 42-year-old man anymore winning the championship, we were like, why the fuck hasn't the referee separated them yet? We need action. When before action, it was enough for somebody to push a younger man against the cage and do a little bit of dirty boxing to keep the fight there for 5 rounds. So it's always interesting how we value things at certain points and certain times.
So Malachy, where can we get more information about you and everything you're up to, man?
So I'm on madlabbjj.com. I'm also on School. So it's Madlab 2.0 on School. You can go to either one of those because both of those are working. Go to my Instagram, Malachy Friedman, my YouTube. I'm going to put out longer form content. Go to School, MMA Mastermind on School. That's where I'm working with Joachim. I'm pretty much shipping all my stuff that I can film over to him. And he's an amazing site over there. And see me in seminars, see me in different things, and also support the people that support me because I do get a lot of support from, it's not just Instagram. I get support from Jocko. I get support from Bioprotein. I get support from Fuji. These are people that believe in the content that I put out and help me, because guess what? Putting out content isn't free. That's the one thing is like, you're like, oh man, you're sitting there. Yeah, no, it's not free. None of this stuff is free. All this stuff takes money. And I have some really great people behind me that make sure that people that like my content are getting my content so I don't stop.
All right, everyone. I'm your host, Adolfo Ferranda. Thanks for listening out there. Give us a like and subscribe, the whole thing. Consider becoming a VIP member. All the links at Malachy and everything discussed will be included in the show notes, so make sure to check that out. So, Malachy, again, bro, thanks. I love it. Let's do a 4-time show coming sooner than later. All right, man?
I hope so, man. Let's do it. Let's do it.
All right. Take care, everyone. We'll see you guys next time.